everyone, my name is Nishtha Kapuria, and my senior speech of Two World pretty much comes down to one hashtag, foreign kid probs. I was born in India and raised in an Indian family, Indian culture, but I've grown up in Texas. Now I know that my case is not unique. I mean, Indians are all over the place, right? It's just the story of my life. Half the time I feel too Indian for Americans, and the other half I feel too American for Indians. I've got my feet in two boats, and sometimes it's hard to stay afloat. That was not supposed to rhyme. I promise I'm not going to start rapping again. As far as feeling too Indian for Americans, my friends have never made fun of me for being Indian. They've never made me feel out of place. But there are still some cultural barriers that exist. Some things I do that they don't really understand, or some things that they do that I don't understand, and that's nobody's fault. We were just raised differently. For example, I am what my friends actually call a Tuesdaytarian, as in I don't eat meat on Tuesdays. A lot of people, because I'm Indian, assume I'm a vegetarian, which God knows could not be further from the truth. But because of that, I get asked often, can you eat meat? And I say yes, but not on Tuesdays. I've gotten used to the weird looks. But it's mainly a cultural and moral thing more than anything else. It teaches us self-control, sort of how Catholics during Lent, they abstain from something that they like or enjoy. And it's on Tuesdays just because we believe Tuesdays to be auspicious. But that's probably the biggest thing I say I'd face are the assumptions and stereotypes, much like Jessica has already talked about. One such stereotype is that I'm really good at math and science. Spoiler alert, I'm not. Put a Shakespeare play in front of me. Ask me to translate Don Quixote. Tell me to explain the reasons of the Great Depression, and you've got it. Ask me to find the definition of a derivative or solve a neutralization reaction, and you're going to have to check back later. Much later. As in, give me time to get help from Justin Wynn. Later. My tastes are also quite different than a lot of my friends. Literally. What I consider to be mildly spicy, they see as too hot to be consumed. What is that? Also, my childhood was quite different because I grew up on cheesy 90s Bollywood movies. So my views towards love and life and the archetypes that I have in my mind are a little bit different from those of my friends. Now, I still watch Disney movies and all those classics, but I was still very much influenced by that cheesy Bollywood. And another area where there's some cultural disparity, so to speak, is the way that I speak, my English. English was actually the third language that I learned, and I learned it at home from my parents. And the English that they learned was English, or the Queen's English, if you will, not American English. And I know Jessica faces this on a daily basis also. We say words or phrases that our friends think are funny, like rubbish bin, or cupboard, or trousers. And apparently we mispronounce words like yogurt, process, schedule, aluminium. It sounds perfectly normal to us, but we get teased about it on a daily basis. I also call soccer football, and for some reason, nobody understood my excitement when India won the Cricket World Cup a couple years ago. The most common response I got was, "What's cricket?" And something else that's a big deal around here is summertime. I love summertime. The long holiday, the snow cones, swimming, hot summer days, long summer nights, loud summer music, all that stuff. I love it. There's just one problem. I cannot stand the sun. And this is Texas. It takes me not even half an hour to go from brown to burnt. Whereas my friends are actually trying to tan, I'm usually found hiding under the shade. Everyone else is trying to get darker, I'm trying to stay light. I automatically take my shoes off before I enter a home. I could never call any adult by their first name. We have to pray in the morning before starting our day. We have to shower before we can pray. And don't even get me started on our stereotypes. But I was just raised differently, so I see the world differently. I react differently. I live differently. On the other end of the spectrum, I feel too American for Indians. For example, I rap. I mean, do I need any other examples? I mean, come on, that does not fit the list of stereotypes. And the way Americans don't understand my enthusiasm for cricket, Indians don't really get my love of football. But amidst the stress that is high school, Friday night lights are something that I live for. Honestly, forget feeling too American. Most of the time, I just feel too Texan. I use words like y'all, which is definitely in my dictionary. No one back home understands me when I say I'm fixing to do something, and ain't is a contraction, right? And it's funny, because of my dad's work, we get to travel, and one place that we travel to quite often is London. So last time we were in London was over the summer, and somebody asked me, so what country are you from? Texas. Oh, you mean the United States of... No, Texas. But Texas is in the no, you're wrong. So I guess you can say my mindset's been a little bit changed from growing up here. And something I'm sure that even y'all can relate to is feeling a little too Texan for the rest of America. For instance, we were up in New York for a college visit, visiting NYU, and I loved it, fell in love with the university, it's one of my top choices, but I couldn't help but feeling a little bit out of place. There were no boots, no sweet tea, no tan lines, no country on the radio, and worst of all, there was no Whataburger. I have got all these dreams of going up to the Big Apple, but I'm still stuck in this Lone Star state of mind. My parents especially have been really understanding of the fact that I've grown up in an environment that is completely different from the one that they were raised in. And all my family, whether here in India or all over the world, because like I said, we're all over the place, they're very modern in thought. But still, especially back home, I'll still run into people with more of a closed mindset who believe that women should not be allowed to drive, or that I should not be allowed to wear shorts, even in 100-degree weather, that I should only marry an Indian, or that grades and academics have to be everything. Luckily for me, this has been the exception and not the rule. But it can still be frustrating. But I do know that if I want them to understand where I'm coming from, I have to understand where they're coming from. They were raised differently. They see the world differently. They react differently. They live differently. Now, I love who I am. I'm thankful for who my parents have raised me to be, and I'm hopeful for who I know I can one day become. But sometimes I still felt myself sinking. I never had a problem making friends. I love people in general, but I felt like just because of who I am, I'd never be able to fit in. I don't go to church on Sunday mornings. I don't eat beef. I've never gone hunting. I've never seen Forrest Gump. Despite what my passport says, I will never be fully American by nature. I also feared I may disappoint as an Indian. I cannot cook. I have no inclination towards math or science. I don't know every single Hindu prayer. And one thing that traditionalists back home just cannot avoid, ladies love country boys. Despite the color of my skin, I will never be fully Indian by nurture. And even if I knew which boat to choose, I could never belong to just one. Life would be easier, I'd live like everyone else, and it would make sense. Or at least that's how I used to think about it. As I've grown older, I've really come to appreciate the fact that I can be of two worlds because there are two sides to every coin in my life. My favorite holidays are Diwali and Christmas. My favorite Twitter accounts are Indian Probs and Texas Humor. My ideal meal would be either tandoori or Whataburger. I do Indian classical dance called Bharatanatyam, and I rap. My friends don't really understand why I'd want to run out into the street and pelt people with powdered colors, which we do on the Indian festival of colors called Holi, and my parents don't really understand why I'd want to go mudding. I love wearing my salwar kameez or my jeans and boots. My favorite movies are Dilwale Dulhaniya Le Jayenge and Remember the Titans, both of which I've seen more times than I can count. Like I said, I'm not good at math, and can quote extensively. I love the crazy traffic of Delhi and Mumbai and having a second place to call home, and I love driving to the edge of my neighborhood just in time to watch the night train go by. I have a laugh watching my mom's bargaining in the shops and markets, and I have a blast at the Texas State Fair. I'm trying to live in some Bollywood movie, and I look at life like it's a country song. And I fold my hands in prayer at the mandir, and I watch football like it's a religion. I salute our Tiranga, and I pledge allegiance to the red, white, and blue. Being of two worlds has made me a lot more open-minded, whether it's my tastes in cuisines, movies, books, music, or just my appreciation for other cultures and people. Because my life is full of contradictions, juxtapositions, and differences, I'm a lot more aware, accepting, and understanding of other people's backgrounds and lives. I appreciate differences because I honestly believe that's what makes us unique. There are plenty of other kids whose parents or ancestry is different from the one that they're living in. Then specifically, there are plenty of Indian Americans like me everywhere. but no one's story is going to be just like mine. I have been raised in a culture with traditions and values of which I'm proud, and I've grown up in an environment with a progressive and global outlook. As they say, every river will flow endlessly to the sea, and I've learned that we cannot simply try to stay afloat. We must swim. Neither boat is perfect or without fault, but by taking advantage of the best of the two worlds, of my two worlds, I've learned to swim both streams of the river. I'm proud to be Indian, and I'm proud to be American. I like my curry spicy, and you know I like my chicken fried. Thank you.